Welcome to the introduction episode of the Traceability Insider podcast. I'm your host, Eme, coming to you live from the vibrant city of Kigali, Rwanda. Join me on this exciting journey as we dive deep into the world of traceability, bringing you insightful discussions with key experts in the field. Our goal at Traceability Insider is to explore the intersection of compliance and cutting-edge technology in the sustainable use of natural resources. First, I would like to talk about why traceability matters and why it is high time that we have an open discussion now. In 2011, the OECD named the region where I reside with a strange name which is Kahara. In full, it means conflict-affected high-risk areas, naming notably Rwanda, DRC, Zambia, Congo, Tanzania, and more countries. Conflict-affected and high-risk areas are identified by the presence of armed conflict, widespread violence, or other risks of harm to people. Armed conflict may take a variety of forms, such as a conflict of international or non-international character, which may involve two or more states or may consist of wars of liberation or insurgencies, civil wars, and more. These karas are known to be natural resource rich, which triggers conflicts yet feed many industries in the Western world. Therefore, many compliance requirements were created by different institutions to address natural resources coming from these countries. The necessity for responsible sourcing of natural resources has surged to unprecedented levels of urgency. High engineering industries, businesses, and commodity purifiers and resellers are increasingly under pressure to adhere to specific industry standards and due diligences. To tackle these pressing issues, a multitude of global initiatives have surfaced. Notable examples include the battery passport, known as the digital product passport, known to transform the transparency of battery value chains and other products by 2030 within EU countries. These initiatives aim to revolutionize data collection, exchange, and dissemination among stakeholders, shedding light on the origins of materials to ensure accountability throughout their life cycle. Complementary efforts such as the Dodd-Frank Act, RCM, and OECD-supported initiatives compel companies to authenticate their use of conflict minerals, including tin, tungsten, tantalum, and gold. Complementary efforts such as the Dodd-Frank Act, RCM, and OECD-supported initiatives compel companies to authenticate their use of conflict minerals, including tin, tungsten, tantalum, and gold, in a bid to promote ethical practices in mineral sourcing. While these initiatives signify progress towards transparency, a key gap persists: the absence of an inclusive dialogue within the traceability ecosystem. The absence of an open conversation among stakeholders hinders the comprehensive assessment of existing standards, technologies, and collaborative endeavors necessary to establish responsible sourcing protocols. This lack of dialogue obstructs advancements towards a robust traceability ecosystem that can guarantee ethical sourcing across diverse natural resources and commodities. Our mission at Traceability Insider is to spark this vital conversation, bringing together stakeholders from various fields to share knowledge and collectively drive improvement efforts. By fostering transparency and visibility within the traceability ecosystem, our goal is to raise awareness and advocate for the ethical adoption of responsible sourcing practices. Through inclusive dialogues and collaborative endeavors, we aim to cultivate a global environment supportive of ethical source. Through inclusive dialogues and collaborative endeavors, we aim to cultivate a global environment supportive of ethically sourcing natural resources, benefiting all participants in the traceability ecosystem. This podcast will feature different leaders in the traceability ecosystem, but I would like you to take away these 4 areas where our speakers are usually categorized in the traceability ecosystem. We will learn about their differences, contributions in the upcoming Traceability Insider episodes. The first category, these are institutions mandated for standardization. And the second category, these are leading traceability technology companies. The third and last category, these are companies obliged to comply. Starting with the standardization institutions, we can start with the Dodd-Frank Act. Some of you have probably heard of it. This is Section 1502 of the United States Dodd-Frank Act that requires certain companies to disclose their use of 3TG, conflict minerals such as tantalum, tin, tungsten, and gold. There is the OECD, which works with over 100 countries now. The OECD is a global policy forum that promotes policies to preserve individual liberty and improve the economic and social well-being of people around the world. There is the RMI, known as the Responsible Mining Initiatives, which has more than 500 member companies. The Responsible Minerals Initiatives is one of the most utilized and respected resources for companies from a range of industries addressing responsible mineral sourcing issues in their supply chains. There's the RGC, known as the Responsible Jewelry Council. It's the world's leading sustainability standard setting organizations for jewelry and watch industry. There is ITA, known as the International Tin Association. It's an organization dedicated to supporting the tin industry and expanding tin use. There's the RCM by ICGLR. This is a manual that describes the minimum requirements for the regional certification. There's the RCM by ICGLR. ICGLR is an international conference for the Great Lakes region, which developed the RCM that describes the minimum requirements for the regional certification of mineral companies. There is the Battery Passport, which is known to transform the transparency in battery value chains and other products by 2030 within EU countries. These initiatives aim to revolutionize data collection, exchange, and dissemination among stakeholders. Lastly, there is the Trace Act, which is the legislation from the United States that seeks to establish a traceability program at the Department of Energy that will support government and the private sector in developing software systems such as digital identifiers and processes and traceability standards that will promote visibility into critical mineral and material supply chains for energy transition technologies such as batteries. These digital tools and processes will help industry more accurately source critical materials in a sustainable, responsible, and resilient manner, as well as meet global legislative requirements including the Inflation Reduction Act's Clean Vehicle Tax, content requirements for critical minerals, and battery component. And lastly, there is a legislation that seeks to establish a traceability program at the Department of Energy. This program will support government and the private sector in developing software systems such as digital identifiers and processes supporting interoperability standards that will promote visibility into critical mineral and material supply chains for energy transition technologies such as batteries. In the second category, there's the leading traceability technology companies. These companies may include CMS AG, TraceLink, DataStake, Circular, MindSpider, Minex, and many other companies. However, it is very important to also invite industries, or these are manufacturing companies, that are always obliged to comply. So we'll have visitors from Toyota, Volkswagen, Tesla, Samsung, Apple, and many other manufacturing companies. I would like to close today's episode with knowing the role of nations with high natural resources. What is their role in this traceability ecosystem? First of all, nations can always establish and enforce regulations and policies that govern the responsible sourcing of natural resources. Secondly, they can participate in and support international agreements and initiatives that promote responsible sourcing practices. Nations can promote transparency in the natural resources supply chain by requiring companies to disclose information about their sourcing practices. Nations can support capacity building efforts to enhance the knowledge and skills of local communities, industries, and government agencies. Also, nations can invest in sustainable practices. By taking on these roles, nations can contribute to the promotion of responsible sourcing practices in industries that heavily rely on high natural resources, leading to a more sustainable and ethical use of these resources. Thank you for joining the introduction episode for the Traceability Insider podcast. Be sure to tune in next time as we continue our exploration of responsible sourcing in the modern world.